said insecurity remains one of the most critical challenges facing Nigeria today, and because without security, nothing meaningful can really be achieved. Nigeria has become what you may call um, everything goes. What is really the value of the Nigerian life? And that's the question we're asking, and that's what we are going to try and take a shot at today. What is really the value of a Nigerian life? Does our life count? Does it matter? There are some videos we are going to be playing, and we'll cue them up where other speakers have looked at what is the actual value of the Nigerian life. How much does the government value us? We hear of various calamities befalling Nigerians, and year after year, it just seems as if we move on. So today is our opportunity to dimension the things that we have had over the past few weeks. Last week, coupled with what we have had before, we are going to take every one of them together, and then we're going to have a conversation about what exactly should be premium and priority for our government in Nigeria. What should they be looking at? Do they really value the life of a Nigerian? And if they do, what is the value of that Nigerian life? What are they doing in concrete terms to show that the Nigerian life really matters? Whether it is in going to the hospital, whether it is in traveling on the road, whether it is in being attacked, what is the actual value of the Nigerian life? And some of these things we are going to discuss it. We are going to keep speaking to government, keep holding government accountable. We are not going to renege on our effort to get to the end of the matter. So just a few of us are here at the moment, but I guess we have a few videos we want to highlight first before we go into the conversation. So if we are ready, we can play the videos, starting even, we can start with what Reverend Lady Thompson said last week, or we can start with any of the other videos, which will help us. Okay, this is a video of this young man, forgetting his name, but
President Tinubu.
Go ahead, let's take the video.
Niger State Governor and all other governors and politicians for Nigeria. I just want to ask this question. What exactly is the primary responsibility of government for Nigeria? What exactly Nigerian government they take money to they do? Nigerians, you see, some of you go fit tire or you go fit soon vex for me for this issue of INEC and election, why they talk. But my dear people, there is no other substitute if we do not find a means of holding politicians accountable. You see this issue of flood where happened for Niger State, Mokwa town, Abi Mokwa district for Niger State. I intentionally not talk about them for how many days. Today now, the deputy governor don't confirm. They say the body where they don't recover from that flood is more than 200. And there are still more than 1,000 people who are still missing from those communities, with more than 3,000 people displaced, meaning that death toll go rise at the end of the day. And according to Al Jazeera report, for the first 4 days after that flood, there was no emergency relief where reached those people. People were living and sleeping in the open muddy land on top for houses where they already burned, won't collapse because relief never come. But do you know the tragedy about Nigeria? As bad as this situation be, so it will not be the last. Una remember last year September when I do this video, they talk about the flood where happened for Borno State, where they said that flood happened a few days after the secretary to the state's government carry people, they go inspect dam, come up with reports say that the dam they okay. Meanwhile, the dikes where they hold the dam don't weak. Few days after that report, the dam burst. In fact, the thing break, enter even Borno State Zoo, where we say reptiles come the flow. Women and girls were looking dead. There was no sanitary pad. They throw bread for up like this for people where they stranded on top houses. After that, Borno State's own, Kwara State don't happen, other flood don't happen, no. But there is nothing that teaches Nigerian government lesson to prepare for anything. What in Nigerian government they use money to do? Everybody knows say natural disasters can happen, but what exactly is the infrastructural preparation wey we dey do so that when these things happen, the lives of people are not put in this kind of devastation wey we dey so? In one singular incident, more than 200 people don't die. That death toll, according to BBC, might reach up to even 700 or 800 people. Nigeria, you see this issue of governance where we dey talk so. Everything in Nigeria is structured to fail. Sea levels they rise, climate change day. Everybody knows say ocean level and all of that. What is the step being taken? If today Nigeria experience hurricane or earthquake or tornado as it they happen for other countries regularly, waiting go be the fate of Nigerians. Anything where anybody they do for this country, when no they talk about how to fix this government and how to hold leaders accountable, is a waste of time. The only thing where we they do, we are subscribing, renewing our subscription for another 4 years of lamentation and complaint. Nigerians, we must come together and fix this criminal governance of a system, because everybody is a victim to it. More than 200 people killed, yet it will not teach anybody any lesson. We go talk, everywhere go quiet. We will wait for the next disaster. That is the Nigerian template. It go happen, complain, rinse and repeat, wait for the next calamity. May God give Nigerians the courage. You see this issue of INEC, me where they talk am, I know say the thing not be easy something, no. Government not even want make people even they talk about that thing. But for you, ask yourself the question. People where they destroy everything, they are already preparing for 2027. Nigeria, what is our plan for 2027? Now so we want to sit down, make we continue to they die. Everything go they happen. We go just they complain. If your own happen, you die, go. Everybody go say, okay, those ones they don't go. Until you reach your own turn. God forbid Nigeria. May God rest the souls of the dead and give the living the courage to wake up and fix governance in this country. May Nigeria not happen to us before we find wisdom. God bless Nigeria. My name is Peter for Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I think that young man, Randy Peter, spoke very, very well. And to be honest, I understand where he's coming from, and that has been my position. Look, it's open for conversation. You all heard what he said. Um, you know, we're talking about the value of a Nigerian life. I hear what he said, one flood will happen and people will go and say, okay, government is running around sending small relief materials. The relief materials are not even enough. I can see Boniface Chisel's hand. We'll get to you, sir. Okay? And the circle keep repeating itself. And the question to ask is, do we really value life in this country? If it is not the life of a big man, and he asked a question at the beginning, what does government use money for? So there are two dimensions that I want to make. Sometimes people corruptly enrich themselves with money, but other times people do the wrong things with money as well. I was watching the River State budget that they were debating on, that 24 billion was budgeted to buy CCTV in the government house. 24 billion. Not to build hospitals, not to make schools, to buy CCTV in government house. So now they can say, oh, that money was appropriated, they gave a contract, they bought CCTV, but is that the proper use of money? Where there is no school, health is not working, so a lot of things, a lot of arguments can be made. So today, it's really about you to have your chance to chime in with your suggestions and solutions about what can be done about the security situation in Nigeria. Peter spoke about flood that happened. It happened in Niger, it happened in Borno, it happened in Kwara. Is that going to be the last? No. I hear sometimes when they say, oh, sea levels are rising, people should move away from their house. Move to where? Government will just say people should move away. Move to where? No provision for where people should move to. Okay, so let's start with Boniface Chizia. We'll take your comments, and then other people that want to make comments will take comments from everybody. Go ahead, sir. Jumoke?
We've asked him to unmute.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I think it's quite fascinating. We're talking about the quality of Nigerian life. If you ask me, honestly, it's next to nothing. That's a fact. If you see the way people die, and then we don't, nobody cares. You know, so 200 people were slaughtered in IDP camp in Benue State. And life just goes on, you know, even amongst those who are in government, even the state government, and so on and so forth. It was happening, and our president prioritized launching projects. If you followed what discussions, what is not happening in this environment, I think the federal capital territory, is it the teachers or so that are protesting that they've not been paid? They've not been paid for quite some time. But we're launching projects, you know. So you look at it, the whole thing. I don't know how we became so materialistic. So everything for us is we are pursuing material things. You see people, ritual killings everywhere, and so on and so forth. And you are saying to yourself, can't we borrow some sense? You know, these things we are acquiring, acquisition everywhere. You just cited the case of administrator at River State, who budgeted 26 billion naira for CCTV in the state house. And this is happening everywhere. Happening everywhere. And so, hey, and you go to that place, you find that schools are not being maintained. You go to hospitals, they don't have dogs in hospitals. You think that should cater to the poor. It's not, nobody talks about them. And it's all acquisition, it's all corruption. And it's a never-ending thing. And you say to yourself, hey, when you die, how much of that are you going to take? How much? And the sort of monies we steal in this environment, it makes you feel that we're not right thinking. We're not right thinking. We should just have some, have some satisfaction. Eat, have your meal, live sensibly, and that's it. And also you have houses everywhere, have it here, you have it overseas, and so on. And then you give us everyone multiple headaches. So I think that it's a terrible thing. I don't know what's going to happen, but we need to get governance right. I've been on this platform before, and I did say that you have to do everything to get governance right. And I think that we are beginning to see some semblance of what we think should be the desired direction. If we don't get governance right, I think that Nigerians must come together and take back their country. So what is happening now is people don't have the right values. So look at the National Conference Center. How much was, I think, 39 billion to renovate?
While we're at it, Mr. Boniface, let me just pick you a bit. Yes. We must get governance right, and that is what we are all struggling for. Now, yes. A group of people have joined together and said they are forming a coalition to rescue this country.
Yes.
Now, we can argue for the merit or demerit of those particular kind of people. Yes. The issue is, we, the ordinary people, can we actually organize the way they have organized? And if we cannot, what more can we do so that we can be part of this process of getting governance right in Nigeria? I think that is the bigger question, really.
Yes, I think so. You're right. But I think that we are beginning to organize. We're beginning to do that. Last election, there was some organization. The sort of people that followed Obi, but they're all over the place. The man went to every place he went to, there was a massive crowd following him. And people came out in their numbers. So I think that people are beginning to organize, but I think that we're not as radicalized as it happens in Kenya. I don't even care. In fact, we should even be thinking along those lines. I mean, in Kenya, they've been having rioting and so on. They want to agree with the government. They want to put down the government. Even the last riot they had, 6 people lost their lives. In Nigeria, we never have that. I don't know. I think we're a bit more by those sides. Okay, we had the NSAS protest, which came close to it. see, what's happening is that in governance, the leaders have taken Nigerians for granted. And unless and until, Nigerians begin to stand up, I don't know how we're going to organize ourselves. Well, it seems as if all parts of the institutions within the system have been taken over. So you talk of, you privatize the state, people acquire the state and so on. That's what is happening. We have Labour Party. Why can't they organize? Should they just be talking about their salaries and wages of their members and so on and so forth? We should have civil society organizations. They should come out and lead protest. But as long as you continue to have what you're having today, and the people in governance, they're not scared. They're not scared. They just do, and there's so much impunity. I said this here the other time. A senator goes and complains about sexual harassment. Government partners the Senate president to take her to court for blasphemy. And there's also really added cyber bullying. And what things are happening? Nobody. What the lady that made the complaint. So there's so much. Yeah, Bello steals money. He's called the money. He stands in the till. But what's happened to him? The other time he was trying to go overseas. He wants to go and treat his high blood pressure. And then EFCC, I was glad that EFCC was just saying that they wouldn't allow him to go. But normally it would just happen. They'll steal this money. And then nothing happened. They talk about it, we make noise and so on. And it's settled, and then it's swept under the carpet. So unless and until we begin to get governance right, that's the crux of the matter. You have budget, and budget is not being implemented. The other time we were told that capital budgets in 2024, and now the lifespan for implementation has been extended, to the end of 2025. Now all that should not be happening because we've left the right thing we should do, and we're not doing them. We used to have rolling plans. We know that capital budgets, they are difficult to implement within one budget year. So you make arrangements in such a way that those budgets are still within, you have an eye on them, and then as you roll over, and it goes on. So this time, but we're not doing it because who are the caliber of people you have there? Caliber of people, have we put people who are meritorious, who have good antecedents in governance? All because nobody cares. The elections don't matter. Impunity is there. They will write the results whether we like it or not. So those are the problems.
Okay, all right. We will look at the solutions at the end of the day. I think you touched on one thing. And look, people may disagree, but we have to find a cause and a path forward. So towards the end of all this, I think we'll correlate and say, what really can we do and what should we be pushing for?
No, the election should count. The result should count. That's the first thing.
Result is one thing, sir.
Yes.
Result is one thing, but actually holding the people in power accountable is another thing. Because when you say results should count, Nigeria has been so pauperized that you will be surprised that even those that are being oppressed will still vote for their oppressors. Why?
Yes.
Because they get a morsel of bread and all those kind of things. So we need to liberate the mind of these people. And there are so many they are in millions. All right. They do the head mentality. They just follow a particular big man that gives them some handout. So even if we say results should count, and those people are still voting with that kind of mentality, then we will not get out of the circle that we have found ourselves. So just beyond result counting, the more important part of it is how do we hold these people accountable to make sure they do what we need for them to do rather than doing what they want to do and get away with it scot-free. We will take other comments and we will play a few more videos. But Jumoke, do you want to take the comments first or do you want to take the
I had Mr. Folabi's hand up. I've asked you to unmute and then we'll take the other ones. Mr. Folabi, please go ahead and unmute and ask your question or make your comment.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I think it's as you said, it's not just resource counting. I think we have to look back a bit since this independence. It's funny how when it's election time, all politicians say they want to save Nigeria. The group, David Mark's group, has now come and say they want to save Nigeria. David Mark, he's my friend, I will not lie. He was Senate president for 9 years, did not build any roads to his own village. I know I went there and I know how dangerous those roads were. But yet he's now coming out to say he wants to save Nigeria. I agree with the last speaker. There was a kind of a movement with Peter Obi during the last election. So I do think people did wise up. But I think it's, as you said, accountability is one thing, but there cannot be any accountability until people start facing the true raw. We hear about politicians, investment, being arrested by EFCC, being arraigned by EFCC. Can anybody name one that has actually gone to jail and has been held accountable? So as long as there's no more morals, there are no more scruples, there's no more virtue. Politicians now is the end game, is the end result. Forget your last name, forget whatever you stand for. Let them print what they want to print in the newspapers. Newspapers, they'll just be used for suya in 1 week's time. And it will be forgotten and washed out. Until we go back, which unfortunately, I think, I don't know if it's too late, I don't know, but people with the morals, people with the scruples, everybody knows what needs to be done. And there are institutions in place already in Nigeria for the right things to be done. It's just that we have the wrong people constantly being there to do the right thing, and nobody wants to die for a lost cause that they believe. They believe it's a cause, but they believe it's going to be a lost cause because they're going to say, at the end of the day, what's going to happen? As the last speaker just said, they'll just write the results. Who is going to stop them? Let's be truthful. Who is going to stop them? Obi had a movement in the last election. What happened? Thugs came out and started beating his supporters. End of the day, when it came down to the days of voting, his supporters just stayed at home and said, why am I going to go and lose my life? Stars came out. Stars was peaceful. When it started getting violent, parents told their children, stay at home. Where do you think you're going? You're not going anywhere. Stay at home. When the thing was hijacked, money speaks and speaks volumes in Nigeria. I'll hold it for now. Maybe I'll come back later. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Uwem Abraham, please go ahead. We've asked you to unmute. Dr. Abraham, please unmute.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for having me, Sonny. Hi. The last time I saw you would be, I think, during the Lagos City Marathon, one of those years. I worked with you in Citizens Bank. I don't know if I was in the legal department. Nice to see you. It's been a long time. How are you, sir? You're muted. Okay, so this is a nice discourse. Does the Nigerian life matter? I'd say to the politicians, the lives of Nigerians don't matter to them because they are there to serve themselves. They are not servants to the people as it should be. And the reason is not far-fetched. They spend so much money. I think in Africa, Nigeria is one of the most expensive electoral processes you can find anywhere. In terms of the cost, one form for a politician is 100 million naira. And that kind of person, what do you expect him to do when he gets elected or selected? his first aim would be to recover all that he has spent. And I think it was on Arise News that they broke down the costs of what it will cost if you want to be a senator, if you want to be a governor, if you want to be a vice president, if you want to be a president. So to these politicians is
Did we lose his audio? Okay. Dr. Aluya, I think we lost. Yeah, he's still here, but I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
We can hear you if you can hear us.
Oh, really? You can't hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello? Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were hearing me. So I was
we
just
lost you.
saying that it's actually the politicians who are there to serve themselves. And an example would be what happened in Rivers State. Look at what the sole administrator will apportion for CCTV and all, and we all know where that is headed. But listening to that young man, talking and all of that, I asked myself, where is the root cause of all of this? I think we should all hold ourselves accountable and responsible because we don't want to get into the fray of politics. And the best minds and the best brains anywhere in the world are basically Nigerians. But we'd rather sit on the flanks or on the fence and run commentaries and all. If we don't get involved in this thing because we say politics is dirty, who is going to clean it for us? Let's all get in there. How many of us have membership of any political party or would even come out for, let's say, council or local government chairman and all? We say it's expensive and all. Sonny said something about how do we stop them? The only way we can stop them is to join in there and give our own contributions to these things. If they are having their national convention or something, we go, and then there are certain things that we should be able to speak up to. I called some presidential aspirants in the other election and said, look, I need you guys to come for a retreat. If you all come as 62 presidential candidates, you are going to split your votes and it will come to nothing. Come together and have a block. This is what they want to do now. But to me, I'm looking at it, it's all about wanting to get in there to grab power for yourself. I'm not seeing that it's for the people because one aspirant has come so many times and is saying, well, this is my last time. Yes, he was VP and all. Is he really coming to serve Nigerians? If you look at his track record and all the things he had done, is he actually to serve or he just wants it to be on the scorecard that he was also a president of Nigeria? Look at all the things that have been brought out about this president, and he's still president today. I will just conclude by saying, if we truly want Nigerian lives to matter, it's not about violence or unrest and all. It's actually all of us getting involved at whatever level, because there's nothing that stops us from being members of all of these things. You be a card carrying member, you carry a card, and you tell them your mind. And these discussions we're having here now is very fruitful, but can we take it one notch higher by taking it into public places, town halls, where these people can also hear? It's not all about, say, how much do you have? A pastor brought out 100 million naira to buy form. Really? Is this what obtains in other climes to run for election? Yet we have an electoral act that caps how much you should spend and all. They disregard all these things. They spend so much money, beavers and this and that, and they don't adhere to them. And nobody can hold anybody's feet to the fire. We just look the other way, and the people know how to compromise some of the people. They give them positions, they give them this, spend this money. As the poverty we see in the country today, of all the things we are saying, if a politician comes out now and throws up $100,000 in the air, what's going to happen? People will scramble for it. It's poverty, and then they bring bags of rice. They actually would, in the daylight, brazenly be buying people's votes. Where does that happen? So if Nigerians' lives are to count, not just to the public, to everyone, we have to all get involved. Thank you, sir.
Pastor Sonny, you are muted.
Yeah, you're calling the next person, right?
Oh, okay. So the next person is Dr. Aluya. We've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute, and then we'll have Pastor Olu.
Yes, thank you. And I'll say exactly what the last speaker just said. If a politician throws $100,000 on the air right now, how many of us will not jump at that money? Sincerely, some of us on this platform. Let's call a spade a spade. How many of us will not jump to grab that? And I'll begin by saying this. He who must come in equity must come with clean hands. How many of people in Nigeria have clean hands? Not to talk of those who are running for elections. We complain about leaders and all that and all that. Guess what? The leaders come from us. Somebody once said just now that I don't understand why or how we become who we become as a people.
Did we lose his volume, or is it me?
In the times of scarcity, people go tribal, meaning when we have no longer have the kind of money that we have, like what's his name said, General Gowon back in the 70s, that Nigeria had too much money. The problem is how to spend it. We don't have the money anymore because we have spent ourselves into poverty. So because there's poverty now, which these people who are in office have deviously perpetrated to continuously to perpetrate poverty so that people will have no mouth to say. So again, people are going tribal. Tribe, when I mean tribe, meaning tribe in religion, tribe in ethnicity, tribe in class, or whatever you want to take it. Associations. So these are the issues. Now, I'll say another word before I truly go on to talking about steps, what we need to do. Change often come, but by the timing will of a selected few. Change often come, but by the determined will of a selected few. What it means is what we sit every day and regurgitate and contemplate and compliment or whatever takes me really love this country well enough to make sure we want to get this thing done and done right. We saw it in Peter Obi. He came out less than 6 months. What does that mean? Meaning Nigerians are yearning with actually be help coordinate everybody into one. I'll give you a simple example. In the Abeokuta women's riots that took place, what happened during the colonial times? They raised the money from two shillings to whatever. And the women were complaining. Why? Because they said, listen, you're asking us to pay. And they said every woman must pay as long as you're 15 years and above. It got so bad. The town was in chaos. The British was using those in authority. I think they are laughing. I don't know what his title was again. And of course the policemen, and including the Ogbonis that they used to execute what they were doing. But guess what? One person stood out, and you guys know that. Funmilayo Raton Kuti stood up and said, you know what? Enough is enough. And what did she do? She galvanized and brought people together. That's a one person. But she brought the paper and she was good enough and well spoken, eloquent in English and Yoruba. But guess what? She came in equity with clean hands. So that is what we're saying. But just like the last speaker had said, one, we need to get involved in the place. I tell everybody, somebody said earlier on, who among us have a voter's card that's registered? What party do you belong to? What party? Because as it is right now, the whole place is filled up with people who have they're unscrupulous and they have an agenda. Now, the agenda they have, of course, we know why. But because we don't have the critical mass to fill up a place, It's impossible. How many of us are involved? Or I'll use the word. How many of us know who our local government chairman is? Or a councillor in our wards? How many of us? Seriously, if we really want to begin, that's how we must begin. So we can contemplate and say what we want to. Today, if you want to live here, go back to your council, go back to your local government, know who the local government chairman is, and begin to ask and put that person to task. Because that's one person you can truly go to ransom first and foremost, because before you begin to raise it up. And then raise young boys. We're talking about, oh, people have to get involved in politics or whatever. Yeah, nobody wants to die. Nobody wants the process of revolt or whatever. But guess what? You can practically get yourself together. I'll talk of those in the diaspora, but those who are home. Get yourself together. See somebody who is a young man in the community, who you think you can trust. Build him up. Ask him to run for local government. Ask him to run for council. Put money behind him. I've done that, and I've said it multiple times here on this forum. I live in New Jersey, but I've been involved in my local government. I've gotten a local government chairman elected. I've been there, and because of that, I held them to ransom and took them on a tour of your local government to see their hospitals, to see their schools that are in dilapidated stages. But because I was able to do, because I'm involved in their political process, sponsored them in getting elected, they listened to me. And I was able to drag them to do that. How many of us here can do that? How many of us know in our local government? I also raise young ones right now in my local government. Get them campaigns, get them awareness to get involved in political process and know how it is. And then when we talk about information and dissemination and all that, we also need to find a way of organizing ourselves again. We can't do this without organizing. Get friends and get associates. And what does that mean? Meaning those whose agenda are in line with your agenda, and know that if you fail, they will fail as well. But you can also get associates, meaning they want something from you, but you give them something that they want so that you guys will be in some kind of symbiosis. Now, in that case, look, the critical issue, and like somebody said, we must get government right. How do we get the government right? Again, somebody just said it. We have an electoral process that is in shambles. It's deceptive. 100 million naira to get a quote. Look, that's something that those of us in the diaspora or anywhere else can say, you know what? Let's get somebody to push a bill to change that in the house. Yes, change that in the house. We will gather ourselves. And you know what? If anybody comes around and say, you know what, we don't want this, we put money and vote that person out. We put money also and get the press to know who that person is and see how bad that this person is trying to make the system wrong. So I'll leave it like that.
We are going to call you
I
up
have
on
to go to
that.
work.
No, before
Yeah.
you go, you've spoken here that, and we're really going to put your feet to the fire on this alignment and building that coalition. And we do have a youth program that we're working on, which is to develop youths for leadership in governance. And part of the challenge we have is really for us to put our egos aside and come together as a community. So I'm so glad that you're already doing that. We're doing that. How many others are doing that we can bind together to make the impact that we need? So I'll definitely be calling upon you
Mr.
to
Jamoke, no
work with us
problem.
on
Any
that.
day, anytime. Thank
Okay.
you. I'm
Thank
here.
you.
You know that. Thank you, and
All
God
right.
bless.
Thank you. Have a good one. Pastor Olu, please go ahead, and then we'll have Pastor Eneda and Auntie Yemisi. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. The topic that we are discussing today is very, very interesting. And I think it's high time that we let people really know what the life of a Nigerian is worth to the Nigerian government. Before I proceed, there was some time during Jonathan's era, there was something that happened to about 2 or 3 Americans, some in faraway Borno. They were kidnapped by the Boko Haram sect or something like that, and they were demanding for ransom. And from the social media or they said the American government contacted Nigerian government that something is happening in Borno, that some of their citizens were kidnapped, and Nigerian government were in denial. They said, no, nothing like that happened.
Well, while they are still at it, American discharged a rescue team from America. They came in through Niger and they rescued the two Americans or the three Americans in Bonu, exterminate all the people that were, putting them in bondage, and they took them back to America without Nigerian government even knowing. I think it was when they got to America that they now called the government that this is what happened, but thank God they have removed their people. So America is a country that values their citizen. And from age 2 or 3, American citizens, American children, they know that their country can even go to war on their behalf if they need to do that. But in Nigeria, reverse is the case. Our government does not lay any premium on the lives of Nigerians. And we can see it in many facets of our life, as expressed by the minimum wage that they are paying workers, as expressed in the value of our own naira, the things that you can purchase and the things that you can't purchase, and as respect by the respect that other nations accord to our green passports. I was watching Adeola Fayehun's video about how she was deported from Rota, Honduras, one third world country like that. They said she can't use Nigerian passport to come in without a visa, even after putting it on their website that you can come to Nigeria, to their Honduras without visa, or you obtain visa on arrival. They said they need to go back to wherever they are coming from and apply for visa. They disrespect Nigerians because they know our government does not place any value on any Nigerian. It is only they themselves and their pockets and their family that they are always looking out for. So, in order to ensure that they do the right thing, the true people of this country, we need to let them know that they are not doing the right thing and come and organize together. You see, the organization that these politicians are doing, they are doing so because of their own pockets, because their source of income, their sustenance is at stake. What other thing can El-Rufai, Aregbesola, Atiku, Amici, what can they offer us again? When they had the chance, what did they do? They are now coming together now and saying that they want to form a coalition because they are not part of the people that their hands are in the till now. So they are feeling excluded from the party that is going on. So they want to also form an alliance and try to boot this set of looters out of the place so that they can come in and begin to loot. But the Nigerian citizen, ourselves, we need to ensure that we come together and we put these people's feet to the fire and let them hold them accountable for what they promised us. And if they don't do what they promised us, ensure that we put pressure on them to ensure that they can't continue what they are doing without attending to the basic needs of an average Nigerian. So we really need to know why we are a citizen and what are the rights of citizens in this country. So what everyone has said here is very, very important. And you discover that it is only in Nigeria that the political system is the most expensive in the whole world. Every other person, they are regulated, but in Nigeria, they are not regulated. A senator is receiving over 15 million naira per month, while professors and doctors that save lives and build nations, and their emolument is being debated in the House. Why should they get increment in salary? Why should they do this? Why should they do that? That is because they don't value the life of a simple Nigerian. So we need to really rework the reprogramming that Reverend Thompson spoke about last week. It's very, very important. And we really need to sit down and agree and come up with a solution that this is what we want to do in Nigeria, and this is what we want our government to do for us. So it is not them that will now tell us this is what they can do and this is what they cannot do. How can a government appropriate 24 billion naira to do a CCTV only for a state house when they are not building the CCTV industry? How much is it to build a CCTV industry that they cannot start that industry with 24 billion naira? It's appalling. And these are the kind of things that we need to hold them responsible for. That one is enough for the citizens in Rivers State to say, no, governor, you can't do this for us. So the citizens really need to organize themselves and plan kind of civil actions that they would take against the government so that they can do the right thing. Thank you.
Pastor Neda, please go ahead. We've asked you to unmute.
All right. Thank you, Sister Jumoke. Thanks to everyone here. Yes, I've been listening to plethora of arguments, reasons, and why it is important for us to engage to see how Nigeria is rescued from the establishment powerhood. Nigeria has been captured by these politicians, the political elites over the years. And at every turn, when the masses are trying to come together to engage and maybe deliver themselves from that hood, then you see how Dr. Aluya was talking about how ethnicity, bigotry, religion, and all tribalism has impeded any genuine agenda for a true change over the years. Now, my focus and what I think, because we're talking about solution, what can we do? Now, when you look at INEC to start with, they are the one that conduct election, and we have seen their inconsistency. We have seen how they've been used and how they've manipulated results over the years. Not just one election, almost every election. No election is perfect, but this is my own suggestion. Because INEC is beholden to the ruling party in almost every election that is conducted, except maybe 2015. But there are many factors that can play out here if we are able to organize ourselves. For example, let me just talk, because I don't want to make proposal of many things, but this is one agenda on the table. If we get the election right, I think if we have right people that we are projecting or we campaign for or advocate for, then Nigeria can go very far, because election has consequences. Once you are voted in and you are not doing well, we know that by way of next election, we are voting you out. So this is my proposal. My proposal is we should begin to look at these politicians and their activities, action from corruption to violence and to many other things, and we document them. So these politicians, most of them in Nigeria are bullies. They bully people with their influence, with their money and every other thing. But we too can bully them, and we are going to bully them through international instruments. For example, many politicians in Russia, they are by the way of what we call Global Magnitsky Act, because of violence, political related issues, financial impropriety, their houses were confiscated, their assets were seized. So we have enough evidence of Nigerian politicians today who, by virtue of their utterances, public utterances, have made a lot of damaging statements that actually has thrown Nigeria into confusion and many deaths recorded. So we have to cut friendship with EU, with UK, with US, and this is actually what will happen if Nigerian politicians, who most of them have houses, if they know that my utterance, my activities from violence to corruption, they can invoke Global Magnitsky Act, and my asset can be confiscated, and which will be, I'm telling you, we'll have, and then the ANEC people also will know that, look, there is repercussion. So we need, for me, it's just an agenda, just an item, and we can do that by aggregating this thing, and then even ALG, through ALG or instrumentality of any association, even NEPAC here in the US, and many other associations of Nigerians in the diaspora, we can actually document these things. If we don't do that, the politicians, they don't really care, but they care when international community is holding them accountable. And I can tell you, 2015, Jonathan was almost terrorized by US government that he can't rig election, he can't do this, he can't do that. So we can really do this thing to put INEC on this, in the spotlight. And for me, we can start with one agenda. As other activities are going as good as they are, we can be, we have the energy to do multiple things at a time. But for me, 2027, let us organize around INEC and put their feet on fire. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Pastor Neda. And thank you for all the work that you're also doing to bring this awareness. And this is a challenge to the Nigerians in diaspora as well, for them to really come together to advocate, or to advocate, that's the word I'm looking for, to advocate for accountability in the international community. Nigerians in the diaspora have to stop being self-serving. They have to put the communal good of the nation ahead of their own personal wishes as well. So this is a charge. Most of this, what you're talking about, will serve us better outside the country. And this is where the Nigerians in the diaspora need to mobilize before we get the voting rights, before we can get we can vote in the elections. What can we do to put pressure on the international community to hold these perpetrators accountable? And to your second point, a lot of these people have dual citizenship, or they have residency. So that's a good place to start. They have to abide by the laws of their second home. And we are not using that. We are not utilizing those weapons that we have. So this is a good time for us to pull those out. In the Senate, there are US American, Nigerian Americans in the Senate. They are everywhere. Who are those that we can call out that, as a citizen of the US, you are going against the corruption laws or the anti-money laundering laws? So there are a lot that the diaspora community can do and should be doing. And for all the diasporans on this on this platform, this is a charge to all of us. This is the time for us to get it right. It is not in 2027. It is in 2025, and it is in July 2025. Thank you. Go ahead, Auntie Yemisi.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you, Jumoke, looking radiant and very Nigerian. Let me congratulate you on that. That's another thing we all have to do. Invest in Nigeria. If we want security to be properly addressed, we need the money in the hands of citizens, by ensuring that we patronize their goods, we give them jobs so that they can think of other activities rather than abducting people or kidnapping someone. Anyway, and it's good to see you too, Pastor Enebi, Pastor Sonny. So good to see you, and all our members here. There are a few of us here today, so I'm very happy that many of us wanted to make time to talk about this value of Nigerian life, and that we're not just talking about and lamenting about the problem. We're talking solutions. I mean, I observe that, and ask the question, do Nigerians care about each other? Do they value each other's lives? Let's leave the politicians. Even the way I see people treating each other, abusing each other, defrauding each other if they get the opportunity, bullying each other if they have advantage over them, they don't treat each other with respect and dignity. They don't protect each other. And that's what I observe in just a casual interaction with citizens. The big man wants to take the big place, wants to be in the front row at the church, and everybody has to scatter around to give him space. We don't seem to value each other. That worries me. And I think most people are out for him or herself. The Western individualism culture has supplanted the African Ubuntu culture in the way we interact with each other. And the politicians can only reflect who we are. When they then get into positions of power, they treat us exactly the way we treat each other. So we have to look at that. And when they get into positions, whether as public servants or any position that, they have leverage, they're going to put their friends there. They're going to put their family there. They're not interested in the common good. That's my observation. And in terms of the security architecture, I think we all have to admit that security is local, the implementation thereof is all local. There may be superstructures, state, federal, and all that, but keeping your home, your community, your local government safe is a local challenge. It is the locals who know who the bad boys are. It's the locals who know when foreigners come into the community. And I think what we need to do, is find out what the frameworks are at the state and local and community level. What's the framework of how does Amotekun operate in Oyo State? How does Neighborhood Watch operate in Lagos State? I'm engaging with the government here because of our own challenges with area boys and those who are using government facilities to harbor, because the federal government has left these buildings, so it's now occupied by all kinds of drug pushers and kidnappers and all kinds of things. And we've got an organization to write a report about those activities, and we're engaging with all the various agencies that can deal with it. It's a slow process because they don't imagine that once you make a complaint, somebody will say, yes, ma, yes, sir, and then jump to action to solve the problem. They're all kinds, so you have to keep at it, you have to keep at them until they solve the problem. So my recommendations are that ALG should appoint a small group to engage the security structures, the Minister of Defense, the NSA, the police and army chiefs, to find out what plans are they executing. Because they may be doing wonderful things, but the results are not maybe getting the maximum result because of some of the lacuna that we as citizens can come in to fill, some of the gaps that we can, that collaboration I think is missing between the government and the people. And we should also engage with the governors and the local government chairmen to understand their plans. What are their plans? I can't imagine that anybody goes into government to say that I'm not going to secure the area. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure people are kidnapped. They may have these ideas, but they may lack the capacity to actually develop plans that will work, or the fact that they're not engaging effectively. This stakeholder engagement, we must promote it. They say they have it in the constitution that the politicians should engage, and occasionally they have town hall meetings, but we should push it more so that it becomes a culture that every quarter or so, these government officials are having town hall meetings, as they have in America, where the citizens, or Britain, where the citizens can go and ventilate and ask questions and have some accountability in place. My own House of representative in Lagos State has this small office where he says he's meeting people. He has a very, very, very strong iron gate in front, so you can't just pop in, And so that culture of engagement is something we have to promote and make sure happens. I would like that group to engage with those levels of government offices to find out what their plans are, what their challenges are, and where we can come in as citizens. Of course, we all must continue to advocate for state police. The framework we have at the moment is not going to deal with the kind of challenges we have. And then we have to develop a plan from these various engagements that these groups would have done. They will come to us with data and information about what the government is doing, where, and how. And then I love the member who said we must organize. We too have to, not just go about our businesses, come for Friday, Thursday, and Jojo, and then go back to doing whatever we're doing. We have to organize a bit more effectively into state and local government chapters. We have to have somebody in our group that is responsible for finding out what's happening in this state or that state. We have to find out we all live in local governments. So how do we organize ourselves, know each other, recruit more members in the local government we belong to, or join other networks that are working in that local government to execute whatever program we have decided as ALG that we want to prosecute. And I love the international engagement. I mean, we did it with Bring Back Our Girls. One of your speakers earlier on, Mobo, the name has gone out of my head. We started, in fact, Bring Back Our Girls was started by a group of, no, it wasn't Habiba. It was Mobo. I'll remember later. Mobo. She lives in the US, and she's a US liaison officer for Bring Back Our Girls, and a group of myself, Yellow Day of Lagos, and a few of us were the ones who actually started Bring Back Our Girls, because she saw the issue with her connection with government, brought it up at one of our meetings. We have a group that we meet to talk about these things, and we started Bring Back Our Girls before Ezekwesili and many others now came in to amplify it, and other people like this lady now took up the international connection, got in touch with members of parliament of the US Senate and all that. And it's ongoing. We're still at it. Every year, we're still engaging with them. They're still pushing the government to do one thing or the other. And then finally, the idea of the legal consequences that the last speaker spoke about. Yes, I think that is also critical. If a lot of our problems is because there are no consequences. People do things, they go and beg, the family come and beg you, or it's too important, or something, or he joins a group of a political party or something, and the next thing you know, nothing happens. So we have to be very good for us to have that framework that Pastor Victor was talking about, in terms of if we have information about anyone who is in public office or private sector that is involved in this insecurity practices, kidnapping people, using herders, because these herders they're the end of the chain. The cows are owned by big businessmen. The cows are, and the land grabbing they're doing, what's the small rats doing with land? Is somebody who have sent them. So we have to find, and I'm happy that Reverend Laddie Thompson spoke about, they know who these people are. So he should tell us, and we should have the evidence that we're able to prosecute these people at the international level if, our own government cannot do anything about it. So, those are my few suggestions, and I want to thank you so much for deepening our conversations, because I really think we need to be focused on how we move on in ALG to ensure that we can deliver some wins, that we have take some decisions about this is what we are interested in for the next 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, whatever. Develop a proper work plan with frameworks and what do you call it? Indicators that show us that we're on the right path and we can see results. We've done this is what has happened, and we can be more enthused and be able to now attract more people who are interested in action, not just talking, to be part of this movement that we want to create to save Nigeria. Thank you very much, ALG, Pastor Sonny and Jumoke, for the work you're doing. We really appreciate your commitment, your passion, and your love for country that keeps you, focused on doing something. Let's do something. Let's make things happen. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much.
Jumoke, you want to add your own piece?
Apart from thank you, we have videos and we have hands up. But the piece I want to add is really to build on some of the action or call to action from last week. And that's why we said we are doing this follow-up. Because Pastor Laddie said something that has stayed with me, the reprogramming. And Pastor Itwa talks about reorientation, which is really the reprogramming. We've been in this cycle for so long, and we talk about how helpless we are. But are we really helpless? That's where that reprogramming comes in, where we have to understand where our power lies and how we utilize that power. The reprogramming or the reorientation that, Pastor Laddie, Reverend Laddie and Pastor Ito have been talking about is our belief system. And Auntie Yemisi talked about it too. Where are all these, who are the perpetrators of this evil, right? Who do the politicians use? Do we love each other? What are our fundamental values? Last week, we talked about the system, that there's a systematic design that is causing Nigeria to fail. We know what that systematic design is. We were not like this before, right? How do we go back to the system that worked for Nigeria, the system that worked for building the African nation? It worked at one point. Dr. Aluya talked about Dr. Fumi Ransome Kuti and the work that she did. And she's one of my she-heroes, And there's an uprising, there's a lot of history about our past heroes that have done work that put us on the map, that built our nations. We can go back to that blueprint, dust it up, adjust it for where we are today. That should be the plan. That should be the plan going forward. And it's not even just about politicians, it's about us. It's about weeding out those, and I'm trying to use the right words, weeding out the sellouts, weeding them out in the churches, in our communities, they cannot, they can't find a place to hide if we kind of take that stance. We keep pointing at the politicians, but we have to look at us as the citizens. What are we condoning? What do we accept? And how do we stop accepting that? How do we change the narrative? The change has to start from us. And Pastor Ladi said something, and I'll stop because I can go on and on, about the spirituality. And TMC started to talk about loving our neighbors as ourselves. Without all that, we're just speaking English. If we don't go back to that reprogramming of the value of our lives and the fear of God, that is the fundamental. That fear of God, holding ourselves accountable to the one who created us, that gave us purpose. Everything else is secondary. So we need to start thinking about the role we all have in this, and we can't keep pointing at the politicians alone. That is just my own take, and I can play the videos when you're ready, or we can take the hands that are up.
Let's play the videos and we'll make a comment. Boniface Chizia, just give us a minute. Let's play those videos and then we'll just chime in. I want to take this direction, this conversation truly to what is the value of the Nigerian life. Let's not lose sight of that. It's not just security that adds to our value.
What is the value of a Nigerian life? A few weeks ago, this Culture Custodian article asked this question, and sadly, we're here today again asking the exact same thing. On the night of June 13th into the early hours of the 14th, gunmen invaded Yewata, a town in Benue State, and reports say over 200 people were killed. This isn't an isolated case. Just a few weeks earlier, on May 27th, another deadly attack happened that claimed at least 42 lives. In fact, these kinds of attacks have become heartbreakingly common, especially across the North Central. Nigeria's Middle Belt, comprising Benue, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, and Plateau State, in addition to the Federal Capital Territory, has long been sensitive, both politically and culturally. Long-standing tensions, land disputes, and government neglect have made insecurity worse over the years, and the pattern of violence has affected much of the North Central zone. Entire communities have been displaced, farmers cannot safely go to their lands, people cannot eat, and the cycle continues. At what point does all of this become too much? When does it stop being just another tragic headline and start being treated as the national emergency that it is? Here's what has happened so far. Protesters came out in Benue to demand an end to the killings, and instead of being heard, they were reportedly met with armored vehicles, helicopters, and tear gas. 2 aides to the principal assistant to the Benue State governor were suspended for joining the protest. According to the PSA, their participation was seen as going against the government. The governor of Benue State says the federal government is supporting efforts to fight back. But what does that actually look like on the ground? Right now, not much seems different. And from the president, a public statement came out hours after Pope Leo XIV had already prayed for the victims. He called the attack inhumane and anti-progress, and said security agencies have been directed to act. But without real change, those words feel hollow, just like many statements that have come before them. With every new attack and little to no visible response, it's getting harder and harder for Nigerians to stay hopeful. We shouldn't be getting used to this. Nigerian lives should matter, whether in cities or in rural communities. They should mean something. This cycle of violence, silence, and blame shifting has to end. People are dying, communities are being wiped out, and it is not enough to just condemn it. We need action. What is the value of a Nigerian life?
What is the value of the Nigerian life? Those people, and I will take the other comments. Those people spoke about purely insecurity, but I want to expand this conversation a bit so that people would focus on so many of the things. What is the value of the Nigerian life? I can see Professor Nike Grinch is up. What is the value of the Nigerian life? Somebody said, if you want to die, go to a Nigerian hospital. Nigeria is the most dangerous place to give birth today in the world. Most dangerous as a woman. And Nigeria is the most dangerous place for a baby to be born because our, infant mortality rate is the highest in the world. Our maternal mortality rate is also the highest in the world. And yet we spend money for things that are not important. What is the value of the Nigerian life? Our health systems are not in place. They are, in fact, place where if you want to die, go. Our roads are in shambles. What is the purpose of a road? The purpose of a road is to provide safe, reliable, efficient route for people to move their goods and services. Now, if that is the sole purpose of a road, there is enough road between Lagos and Calabar that can be dualized. People are dying daily on our roads. There was a time between Auchi and Benin, vehicles were stuck, vehicles carrying food products from the north. And it happens all the time in Mokwa, Jeba, and all those areas where the vehicles get stuck, the food items start to rot away, it cannot get to their destinations, the people who buy it lose out, okay? All these roads are there to be fixed. No, our government is interested in starting another road that will be abandoned later because we can't maintain it. That is our culture. Okay? Our schools are totally and completely dilapidated. Our hospitals, our police stations are centers of crime. If you want to be arrested, go to the police station to report a case. You know, so we can go on and on and on. What is the value that the government, I mean, those of you living abroad, people come from abroad, they say they are refugees. The moment you enter a country and declare refugee, in London, they put you in a hotel. They begin to feed you. They provide medicals for you. They provide everything they provide for you. They don't know you. You just came from nowhere. But in Nigeria, what is the value? And then people want Nigerians to be patriotic. Yes, we want to be patriotic, but we must hold government accountable. And that's where I like some of the suggestions that have been made. But at the end of the day, we are going to round up with all the suggestions that we are making about what do we actually do? How can we hold government accountable? Even if we didn't vote for you, I still have a right to hold you accountable because you are supposedly representing us and you should represent us well. So we will take the next few hands and maybe we can have the conversation expanded about the value of the Nigerian life across the spectrum. I know security is one, but there are so many other places where government is neglecting to protect the Nigerian lives and people are dying needlessly. Pastor Itwa has this famous story we tell all the time, and I will end here, about a family, about a child, about a teenager that we lost so many years ago in Lut. Why? Because they didn't have the things to treat that child with, and we had to be running all over Lagos to try. By the time he was able to get anything to come back, the child had died in the hospital. Has the story changed? That was over 15 or 20 years ago. Those of you that are old enough will remember Abacha's speech in 1983 or was it 82 when they overthrew Shagari. He said our hospitals had been becoming mere consulting center. That was over 40 years ago when Abacha made that cool speech overthrowing the military government. Has it changed? No. But we keep talking and talking and talking. So for me, it seems that what will really get government, anyway, I won't say that yet. Let me hear the other comments. Because something has to get government moving. Because talk alone will not change this our situation. We have to organize and do something. And that's something, I know what it is. And many people have touched on what it is. Okay? But I will comment more on that and why it's not working. Jumoke, let's take the other hands.
Professor Grange, your hand is up. You have the solution to Nigeria's issues. We're so glad.
Thank you very much, Jumoke and Pastor Sonny. Now, you know what is happening now. It didn't happen overnight. It was gradually happening, and many sections, many of us have tried to fight it in our own little way. I remember in Luth, when we didn't have water, light, etc., many years ago, about maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago. We went on strike, we did everything. But there was no groundswell of support for this.
Thank you, ma'am. Very, very important.
Yeah. I also want to remind us of the fact that we had gone through various regimes, various governing regimes. We had civilian, then military, now civilian. Unfortunately, the military actually spoiled the business, because whilst we, as civilians, we were trying to work out our problems ourselves. But then the military came and started lording it over us, directed what had to be done, etc., etc. So we got used to being directed. A lot of people never exercise their own rights anymore to ask questions, to try and participate in getting things to be better. Okay, so where are we now? I believe that, as Auntie Yemisi has said, we have to get back to grassroots, because in the process of all these things, we had all migrated from our villages and all that. We left the old people there and the vulnerables and all that. They're all there. And we all went, became urbanized. We're all elites. And whereas it is the people in the villages that can actually make a difference to what we are talking. If in some states, some elites still went back. They kept going back to their villages and helping to build, their villages and to participate. But there are many, many places where it's not happening. I don't want to mention ethnic groups or whatever, but some ethnic groups are better at this than others. Now that we are thinking of constitutional review and reform, I think, we have to look at that constitution not with a view to correcting what has been written and all that, but what has not been written is another problem. The constitution so far is addressing our lives, our lifestyles, right down to local government. But local governments are still very big governments. There are, things happening lower than at local government level. DMC can testify to this. At ward level, at village level, and all that. We may not be able to capture all that, line by line in the Constitution, but if the local government is given the opportunity to write its own constitution, so that they can now look at their own levels, right from family level to village to ward, and state what everybody has to do. What do we have to do to make our place all right? In other words, it's, we have to have a structure or restructuring at that level. Now, how can we do this? Right now, the legislative, or what do you call them, the Senate, they are rushing to try and get people to join them to correct whatever is wrong in the Constitution and all that. We all know what that means. They will earmark a lot of money for that and spend the money and, maybe share what is left and all that. Or they share first before spending what is left on the Constitution review. So, we cannot leave it to them like that. We have to join. We have to make sure that we are there when they're discussing all these things, and tell them that even whatever constitution that we are coming up with, it has to be able to address my life at the local level. This is what I have felt, that we don't have the structures there at the local level for participation. Town halls, there is one town hall maybe at the at the local level, local government level. That's not enough. You want a town hall at every village level with recreational facilities, with a youth sector, with some even thinking about statistics of the place. They must have record keeping there, the records of what is happening and all that. So this is just what I feel, that we are, unless we address this restructuring properly, we may not get to where we are going. Yes, every life is precious, but not every life has been recorded. In fact, records of births and deaths, they've probably jettisoned that. You can die and they may not record it. Definitely many children die and they're not recorded. Many pregnant women die and, so let us look at what is actually happening at the grassroots level. Thank you very much. That's just my own little contribution to it.
Should I take the other hands or do you want to play videos?
I think we have time, so we're going to go into trying to see what are the possible way out of this, making the Nigerian life better and worth it. So the hands that are up, we're in the solution mode now. Enough agonizing, let us organize. Enough complain, let us solutions. All right. What is it that we can do? One, to improve the value of the Nigerian life, to make sure that living in Nigeria is worth it, and then our lives truly matter when they say the Nigerian lives. So we have a few things that have been said, and we'll just summarize that. Pastor Etwa is also in the house. So please, the hands that are up, I know both of you have spoken before, but I know that it's to provide more solution and how we can actually do it. Okay. Dr. Boniface Chizia.
Yeah. Okay.
Please unmute, sir. Please unmute. Okay.
All right. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. My intervention earlier on, I talked about the election should matter. It's so important. If you have INEC that is truly independent, if we're going to solve anything in this country, we talked about constitution and so on and so forth, we don't obey the rules and laws, we don't. State capture. If you have election and it matters, and you are voted into office, and you know that when you come back for re-election, that your performance whilst in office is going to matter. And people would vote, and they will vote. If they don't like you, they vote you out. It's so important. When we're talking about accountability, that should be the crux. That should be the center of accountability. How do we elect the INEC chairman? Not the president appointing the INEC chairman. It's very important. Let's constitute the body of maybe past Chief Justice of Nigeria. People have a reputation to protect, a name to defend. Let them come together. Let's advertise that position of an INEC chairman. Let people be selected. Let them select somebody, who has some integrity, someone who has some, reputation to defend, and make him chairman. It's so basic. What we have today is not working because of this. And we also need people with values. Let's not bring people to office who we know are corrupt. We're talking about corruption. We're talking about the cost of joining. In my state, the Delta state, I saw some calculation that says you need to spend about 20 billion naira to become a governor in that state. Now, how can that happen? If you spend 20 billion naira to get into an office, then
Okay,
what's going
so
to
in
be?
essence, we should make sure that INEC is reformed to
Yes,
make sure that elections
yes,
count.
yes.
Okay, sir. Thank
All
you
right.
very much, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Mhm.
All right, Sister Emisi, I think we got
Uh,
some suggestions from you earlier on, but you want to add to
yes,
this? Okay.
yes. I just thought I can add one or two things.
Yeah.
Professor Grange spoke about some of the activities that she had been engaged in. But one thing I also want us to consider is the culture, the cultural underpinnings of why we don't value ourselves, why the average Nigerian allows him or herself to be degraded, devalued, seen as just something to be negotiated, to be bought. Not just the poor people, the average person in the workplace, how what culture is there that respects the individuals working in the organization so they can speak up. And there's a very good book by Malcolm Gladwell about this that really talks about how culture really influences the thinking of the people, where he did a survey, a research in an airline where, because there was a lot of crashes, I think it was Singapore Airlines some years back, and the planes were crashing. And the research that he did found out that the reason they were crashing was because the co-pilot who would observe something going wrong in the cockpit was too scared or too timid to tell the major pilot, and they crashed because their culture says you cannot talk to your elders anyhow. So just changing the fact that people in that organization could express themselves actually made a difference. So what is the culture that we observe in a country like Nigeria? The parenting we do, are they developing independent-minded children with critical thinking, where those individuals value themselves so that they don't need anybody to come and fight for them? If you talk to the average American, he will confront you. If you insult him, he will deal with you. You know, that culture of the pride in oneself and the knowing that you have the power within yourself to resist ab initio the wrong or the demeaning or the devaluing activities of someone else, whether it's during the electoral process or somewhere. So that's one thing. Then she talked about local governments having their own constitution. I think Nigerian elites must understand that they cannot leave everything to government. I know that in Kwara State, I'm in communication with Dr. Wahid Olagunju, who was the head of BOI, and he's retired. He's gone back to Kwara, and he's organized with some other elites there to develop a plan for the local government. So we too must be up and doing, realizing that our government, the government that we have now, the framework we have now, is very weak. It has not developed to the point where we can demand this and demand that from them. That those of us who have gone abroad, those of us who had opportunity of education, must on our own be able to organize ourselves and provide alternative prescriptions, alternative plans, and engage in a way that it will address a number of these issues. There was something else, but I've forgotten. But I think those two things are worth putting in our lexicon of to-do things. Thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to speak.
Thank you very, very much, everyone. I think we're coming up to the wrapping up session, and I think a couple of things have been said. Chief among it was that I think Olu made that point that we must organize ourselves to hold leadership accountable. And when we say hold leadership accountable, it's not merely by talking. Those that live in the West know that protest is a common feature that you have in the West. And there's no reason, for instance, why people in River State, those ladies that were coming out in different uniforms, supporting one group or the other, cannot come out against that insertion in their budget that says 24 billion or 26 billion should be spent on CCTV. They should occupy the government house in a non-violent manner and say this money can be used to do. They know where the schools are, they know where the hospitals are. Deploy this money there. Otherwise, we are not going anywhere. And I think that is one area where the Nigerian middle class and the elites have failed. All of us, we are comfortable to speak on platforms like this. But whenever there is a call out for protests, for people to sit out, we rarely come out. The few that come out are overshadowed by those that come out because they have nothing else to do and they just want to gain or benefit out of it. And they are the people that cause riots and turn the protest into a violent one. So if those of us that are in a way semi-comfortable are able to come out for protest, 10,000 of us occupying National Assembly for 1 month, they will do what we want. Even if you can't go every day, you can take 1 day in a week. So if we can have something where people can organize and say, I volunteer to be there on Tuesdays. I mean, for those who are not working where they will be strictly regulated. Although government have learned how to curtail us. Because what I see with this government is if there is no consistent push to protest against what we don't want, they will never change. We will make small gains, they will give us small things here and there, but that quantum shift that we need will never happen. And that is one way we can hold them accountable. The other way is through this international blacklisting, and we can work the details of that out. We know where their properties are, we know where their monies are. They use people in the diaspora to do most of these things. It is something that can be done. And there have been so many other suggestions that were made by people on the platform here. Auntie MEC made a couple of them. The value of our life. Local government should organize the framework for Amoteku and all others. ALD should have a small committee that will do stuff. And Jumoke talked about reprogramming, orientation, and then make INEC make election count. I think Pastor Itwa is in the house. Faye wants to say something, and maybe after that we will get over to Pastor. We are wrapping up the conversation on what is the value of a Nigerian life. Faye, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. I just, I heard you just mentioned that we should protest. There's no reason why we can't protest. But I just wanted to ask, what do we do in a case where we protest as youths and they face us with guns and shoot at us? How do we fight that kind of power? It's not as if they've not done it before. They can do it again. How do we fight that kind of power? That's just a question I want to ask. Thank you.
Well, for me, the kind of protest I'm talking about is nothing violent. It's just like an occupation. And we have a right to occupy. I know they will. And while we're occupying, we are not disturbing. We are not saying people shouldn't go about their business. For instance, say we want to occupy the Lagos State House of Assembly until a particular law is repealed or something is done. And if we turn out in our numbers, not a few people, although, like I say, politicians have learned a way of sending, people into the midst of any kind of protest, and then they turn it violent, and then they say it is violent, they drive everybody away, and then before you come back the next day, they have cordoned off everywhere with security and everything. But this is like a 24-hour kind of protest, a protest that people don't leave. Let me not get in there, but we can work the details out, okay? Because these politicians will never, they won't change. Because like somebody said, you spend 1 billion, 500 million to get into office, you are going to definitely want to recover that money. Definitely, all right? Unless we make it impossible for them to recover it, So at the next election, they will not be willing to spend whatever little they have. If not, it's not going to happen. So we got to think of ways, all right? And I have a few ideas in my head, and we're discussing with the coalition, and we'll see, not the ADC coalition, this is a coalition for good governance in Nigeria, not necessarily to take power. Anybody that comes to power, even if we supported you to get to power, we must also hold you accountable to make sure that you are doing what the people need, what is right for the people and the country. Because I think that's where the problem really is. Okay? We can blame the people for all we want, but until the middle class, people like me and you, rise up to begin to be present in that march to hold government accountable, it's not going to happen. The lower class people that come out for protest, by the time they throw them some things, send confusion in their midst, everything scatters. So we have various ways and ideas. People have different thoughts on what can get Nigeria better. But, it can never get better if we just sit and talk alone. We must rise up and act. And sometimes we must be ready to stand for something. I hear you, Faye, when you say when they face you with guns and all of those things. It's terrible. Nobody wants to die, because the tragedy of Nigeria is that when you die, it's your family's loss. Nobody even remembers you anymore. Okay? So I think for me, I have another radical idea for that. But look, is to warn the police ahead of our protests that if anyone is shot by any policeman on account of this protest, no police will wear uniform again in Nigeria, because we know that they are against us. If you are not against us, we are protesting the thing that will make your life better. You as a policeman or you as a soldier, then they send you to come and kill us. Then they will be dying. So sometimes these views are radical, but it's to send a view, it's to send an idea across to security agencies and say, look, we are going, right, all of them, we are going to sit down here and occupy. We invite you to protect us. Your job is not to protect our oppressors. We are just protesting that they do the right thing. For example, that 24 billion that was inserted in the budget. If the women of Rivers State come out and say, we are occupying the Rivers State government house until this amount is reverted to fix hospitals and schools and all of those things, and then they send soldiers to go and start shooting them. The soldiers, are their children not going to go to hospitals and schools? So it's to somehow appeal to their emotion even before we go out to do this, so that they know that properties can be destroyed, but life cannot be regained. They can be rebuilt. Okay, so we have to keep it, we have to keep at it. We have to keep at it, really. There's no option, there's no alternative. This gentle talk, we have been at it for so long. We have to rise up, and those that know how to do it can do it. And if we are ready, we can put ourselves forward, volunteer the days you can be out there. People in diaspora can be sending money. We buy bread and buy everything and feeding people there. No going away. People will be there 24/7 until that thing is done. But if you do that now, they will say opposition is sponsoring you, opposition is paying you, opposition is feeding you. They want to bring down the government. It's mutiny, bring soldiers, bring this and that. They can't frighten us with those kind of things. Okay, especially if we have non-partisan middle-class professionals, doctors, MBAs, all the other associations that are not in political parties. If they are part of this, move, I believe it will succeed. Otherwise, they are already planning for 2027. Whether it is ADC or APC, to me, they are the same thing. Just power grab, they keep sharing. But how do we hold them accountable when they get there is what we should really be talking about, because we can't stop. Many of us can't get into politics now and wind ourselves up to win election in Nigeria. It's impossible with the current structure. That's the truth. Well, except somebody here has 1 billion to spend or 5 billion to spend. But Let me let Pastor Itwa wrap up if he's on the platform.
We have 2 hands up, sir. Do you want to take those hands before?
Do we have time?
Maybe if,
okay, go ahead.
Maybe 1 minute.
All right.
Mr. Stephen Lawson, please go ahead, sir. 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sonny. I'm going to have to time myself for the next 1 minute or less. First, Big Mama totally mentioned the military. The military is reactionary. I'm not saying the military is best in whatever it is they did or they do. But the military came on board because of the carelessness, irresponsibility of the civilian. From the 60s of Uzogu's coup to where we are dealing today, I mean, you have made mention of the fact that a sole administrator has earmarked over $10 billion in Rivers State for CCTV camera, and everybody seems to be quiet. The people who defended the sole administration appointment in Rivers State under the guise that Rivers State was going south are all quiet. And so we tell ourselves that where is the level of sincerity? It's not so much about the military's fault, because every time the military has come, it is because of the irresponsibility of the civilian leaders. All right? So we need to have that addressed. Number two, you had mentioned about coalition, and sometimes I try not to be passionate about those things, but because of people like you, because of people like Auntie Jumonke, Pastor Lu, Faye, and the rest of the team, including Pastor Itua, some of us feel that you can't throw in the towel. But the truth is that I don't think Nigerians are sincere enough and they are ready to be able to make the change. Number one, different factors are responsible. People are hungry. They have not fed the Maslow law of hierarchy with the basic aspect of life's needs has not been addressed yet. Until we are able to deal with all of this, we are going to still have this talk shop. And by the way, this talk shop is important because this talk shop is an avenue for us to vent some of our thoughts and emotions. None of us want to carry guns. I mean, what is happening in Benue State to the extent that some people are advocating Benue people should arm themselves. There are people, elites in this country, who are funding a lot of this catastrophe because for them it's far more beneficial. We are still also dealing with Western infusement in the country because they don't want you to arise for whatever different reason. One of the points I've always said, sir, is this. Can we pursue a project where at least 1 or 10% of Nigerians can sign up to an agreement? And these people are scattered all across the country, that this is what we want. Because part of my challenge with some of the things we do is that there is no graduation, no consistency. We had this conversation before the election that brought in Tinubu, and now we are facing another election, whatever it is. Every conversation with regards to development and growth is stylishly going underground. By next year, none of us will even have the time to discuss about governance and whatever's progress we are going to make. So, can we have 1 million, 5 million Nigerians who we gather together on a hub, leveraging on technology, signed up to the future of the Nigeria we want, draw out a program consistently, and when certain issues that needs to be addressed comes up, we all gather whatever way we can to, and that has to be a continuous thing. All right? Some people pay taxes, but never demand from the government what they use their tax money for. Some of those little things are aspects of projects where we should be able to put together for us to call those in government accountable. However, it's not going to happen in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. This is what some of us were saying. Now we have another election cycle. There's a coalition that has been formed, and nobody is going to be able to dislodge them because you don't even have the resources, especially financial resources, to be able to pull all of this thing through. So, Pastor Sonny, my position is simple. Can we have 10 million Nigerians, which is less than 10% of Nigerians, all across the country, who will say that this is the Nigeria we want? Those 10 million people can shift the dimension of the conversation. Because if you have a hub of these 10 million Nigerians, who will say in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, in Sokoto, in Nasarawa, this is what we want for a future. And so if there's an issue that rises, 10 million Nigerians, whether they are here or the diaspora, will lend a voice. And then we will push. Because the problem is this. After we finish the discussion in 2015, everybody falls back. You come back again and you continue. So that is my submission, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take the last hand and Mr. President, Pastor Ito can wrap up. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Honorable Ned Corey.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate the contributions that have been made here, and they are so wonderful. Just like the last speaker said, I've been in several discussions, conferences, seminars where a lot of leadership discussions have been made. And I find out that at the end of the day, everybody goes back to their houses, then begin to plan another one. And then elections will come and go. Now, we all know what happened in the last election, and we were given this government. Whatever it is, the Supreme Court went ahead to also declare the government legitimate. Now, whether it is legitimate or not, it has been accredited to be legitimate. In this case, we think that there is a root cause for this thing. There's a small boy that I've been seeing that has gone to the National Assembly all alone to go and cry and heal for electoral reform. And we all know that the democracy we have today, the foundation can never be strong without election. Now, do we fold our hands, continue to do conferences, continue to talk on tables till 2027 election comes, and then there is no reform on the electoral bill? We are not able to press and demand for transmission of the result electronically, the necessary things that should make the elections credible, free, and fair. Then, if we get this right, I think every other thing will begin to fix themselves. The internal party politics is going to play out again, that people will rise up and say, challenge a matter, and all through the year till the court continue to adjourn, and then nothing gets out. So I think it's better we direct our bullet to one thing. If it is to press down and mobilize 10 million people and go to the National Assembly, like you said, occupy the National Assembly and ensure that we want electoral reform today. If not done, we are not leaving this National Assembly. I think we should target one thing and achieve it, and not so many things about the leadership. We have pointed out our problem that it is relative. So how do we fix it? Starting from one thing. That is my own submission. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your top-notch contributions and suggestions on how the Nigerian life matters and what we should be doing. These conversations will continue, but it calls for more action than just talk. And that is where we need to really be ready to sacrifice. So if I were to ask for a sample on this platform and say, how many of you are ready to volunteer a day a week, for instance, to sit out, or even a day a month? That's Monday to Friday. Of course, Monday to Sunday even, because the Nigerian system, I mean, I'm old enough to understand that if you give government any space, they will block you out. You can't come back again. So if you are going to protest, it must be a chain protest that every 24/7 you are there and you are peaceful. You are eating there. As one set is going, another set is coming. We just keep rotating it until we get what we want. I don't know if that will work, because anyway, thank you all very much for being part of it today. Jumoke, Pastor Etwasa, over to you if you are on the platform.
Well, Sonny, I've been listening since I got off the plane. Yeah. And I want to thank you all for all the work and the energy that you put into African Leadership Group. I think we've gotten to a stage where we need to take a few decisions. Number one, the activities that we're going to be having outside of just the conversations on Thursdays, and how to raise money to fund those activities so that they'll be very effective. So we need to have a meeting to decide that. Number two, just taking off from what you said, Sonny, what do the public need to do to hold the government accountable, and to be sure that we can get government to do what government needs to do and let them stop taking us for granted, here and there. What are the civic activities? What is the recourse of the ordinary citizen without contravening any laws or getting into any problem? These are the activities that we need to do and we need to agree on, and then see how we can start a movement that will galvanize these activities, on a consistent basis. For example, how could we ensure, like you said, if government does this and this, these are the protests that you're going to have. How are you going to keep the protests going without the people breaking down? Okay, what do we need to do? How much do we need to put together to make sure that this can be done? If government does this and this, how do we take government to court when necessary and ensure that we can see the court process through? All the things that we need to do as a people to challenge government. How do we strengthen the judiciary, for example, to make sure that, like Donald Trump tried to do in the US, he tried to make some laws. A county court judge or a county judge challenged him and it stood. So what are the things we need to do to make sure that the citizens have a response against any kind of government, and make sure we can put government in check and government in place and get government to begin to fear and respect the citizens like they do in other countries? I think if we can put together a workshop to decide on what to do and then how to do it, what do we need, what resources do we need, and what steps do we need to take to be able to mobilize the Nigerians to do it and build confidence in themselves against government. I think that might be a useful thing for us to look at and something for you to champion, and then we can take it from there. Other than that, I think it's been an excellent session, and I think we're making progress. God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of the evening and enjoy the weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jumoke, over to you for announcements and closure.
Usually, Mr. President has the last word now, so I don't know if
Okay. Yeah, well, you can make any announcements that you have. It's okay.
Well, we meet here every Thursday, same Zoom link, different topic, and just following up on those that we have a lot of programs that need fundraising, and maybe next week we will spend some time to discuss those initiatives like this, the civic awareness and civic engagement courses. We just graduated the 3rd cohort. We want to take those to the grassroots and just take it offline and have it at the marketplace, under the mango tree, in local community government areas. So many initiatives that need everyone to kind of take that civic shovel and dig in. And then we have this coalition that we've been working on too, again, for local government participation, having those town hall meetings and strengthening the citizens at local government levels. All these need participation, needs volunteers, need funding. So we'll probably spend some time next week talking more about the initiatives at ALG, or the programs that we are focusing on this year. And then the last one, Dr. Aluya talked about the training youths to take leadership position at local government. We have that curriculum built up that we also want to launch out to train our youths, and then also help empower them that their lives matter as Nigerians, but also equip them with those skills and the right thinking that they need to be able to take this position. And lastly, the diaspora community holding leaders accountable or advocating for sanctions or policies that can help hold some of these leaders accountable, especially the ones that have like dual citizenship or residency. They are under the law of those other countries. So those are some of the things that we can start working on, or that we've talked about, that I think it should be priority, not next year, but this July. We can start on that. So thank you, everyone. Back to you, sir.
Sorry, also in addition, Auntie Jumoke, there is need for those that have not yet registered as a member of ALG now, they should try and register so that they can get our updates and our meeting outlines and newsletters as we produce them, so that we can send them to their emails and engage them with development going on within the organization. Thank you.
Thank you for
And they
that.
also need to tell others about ALG so that we can have more people come together to do this.
Thank you for that reminder. I just posted the link again in the chat room. So please go ahead and fill that form. And like Pastor Lu said, we will send you the welcome package, more about ALG, our code of conducts, the programs, and all the things that you need to know about ALG and how you can even engage more with the organization. Okay, that's all the announcement we have for now. Thank you. Okay. POV, you want to stop YouTube now?
Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
Okay.